We think it's best if you skip the gathering this year, Leela. We just want a calmer vibe for once. Calmer. That one word managed to peel the skin from 15 years of love, labor, and tradition. My name is Leela Hart, and at 40 years old, I'd just been uninvited from the holiday I'd built from the ground up. A celebration that had once pulsed with warmth and wonder inside the four walls of my restored Philadelphia brownstone. Your brother Mason is bringing his new fiancée, and we'd like to avoid tension. There it was, the velvet-covered knife. For 15 Christmases, I had transformed this old house into a living, breathing storybook. 3-day menus crafted with care, hand-strung lights woven through every archway, candles, ribbons, wreaths, everything chosen with intention. I didn't just host dinner, I curated joy. But now, my family wanted to trade that in for Mason's sleek, sterile condo in Baltimore. The same one they used to mutter about behind his back. Too cold. Feels like a hotel, my mom had once whispered, running her hand across his granite countertop. And now it was the sanctuary of simplicity. I stared at the screen, fingers hovering. Then I typed back, "Perfect. Enjoy the holidays." The reply came fast, too fast. "Don't be dramatic, Leela. You know how worked up you get. Mason and Alina just word something more low-key this year." Worked up. That's what they always called it. When I spent 2 years scraping old paint and replacing crown molding by hand to bring this house back to life, they called me obsessed. When my weekend pastry hustle became a 6-figure business, they called me stubborn. And when I launched Sweet Legacy, the event company now featured in Modern Living, Food and Table, and 2 national ad campaigns, they called me intense. Always too much. Never just enough. I lowered the phone and glanced around the quiet heart of my home. The tree hadn't gone up yet. It was only December 1st. But I could already see it in my mind. The soft glow of ceramic ornaments from Paris, the mercury glass baubles I'd hunted down in Vermont, the antique angel from my grandmother's attic, still scented faintly with lavender and thyme. Oddly, I didn't feel anger. What I felt was free. Another buzz. "You're not upset, right? It's just Mason's turn, and Alina's family is very proper." Proper. As though I'd been throwing Bacchus-level ragers with disco balls and moonshine. This was Mason, the man who once set a frozen turkey on fire trying to wing it. And Alina, who publicly bragged about never having used a stove. And somehow I was too much? I opened my banking app, smiled. Then I tapped into my Sweet Legacy Instagram and began typing. Exciting news! This December, Sweet Legacy will host a private holiday dinner for 20 single mothers and their children, right here in our founder's home. Let's make this season magical for those who need it most. I hit post, then replied to my mother's latest message. Not upset at all. I've got other plans. And I did. Plans that had been forming quietly for weeks. Plans that didn't rely on approval, appearances, or family guilt. This year, my home would still be full, just not with the people who had walked away, with the ones who truly needed to be welcomed in. The next morning, I made 2 calls. First to Jasmine Ruiz, my friend and director of the Kensington Children's Outreach Center. "Leela," she answered breathlessly, "everything's set. The kids haven't stopped asking about the dinner. Are you sure you're doing this?" "More sure than I've been about anything," I said, the warmth in my chest blooming like embers catching flame. Then came my second call to my agent. Yes, I have an agent. Another too much move my family once mocked. "Contracts are signed," she said with glee. "The Food Network is locked in. They'll film the full transformation, setup, dinner, the whole shebang. Holiday special airs Christmas Eve." I hung up slowly, savoring the quiet that followed. Then another message buzzed in from my mother. "What plans? You always host Christmas. Are you traveling? Leela, please answer." I silenced my phone and reached for my notebook on my counter. Not just any notebook, my spiral-bound planning Bible. The one Mason once called a control freak's dream journal. Last year's version was filled with schedules and diagrams, lighting sequences, seating flows, color-coded timelines for oven usage. This year's notebook held something else entirely. A knock on the door pulled me from my thoughts. It was Mrs. Beckstrom, my elderly neighbor, holding a tin of cinnamon pecan cookies wrapped in a ribbon as red as her cheeks. "Leela, darling," she said, stepping in from the cold. "Just came from the co-op. Your mother was there. Is it true you're not hosting this year? The neighborhood's been buzzing. People plan their whole season around your party." I smiled and took the tin. "Don't worry, Mrs. Beckstrom. The party's still on. Just a little different this year." She tilted her head, confused but comforted. She always was the kind to trust that if I said magic was coming, it would. As soon as the door shut behind her, another message rolled in. This one from Mason. "Mom says you're mad. Don't make this a thing. You know how intense your parties get. Alina's parents are quiet people. They like things simple." Simple. The word hit like a snowball to the face. I flipped to the page in my notebook labeled Centerpieces. Drawings of a forest-themed table, a North Pole baking room, a gingerbread workshop. Notes in the margins. Names of children. Dreams. No, simple had never been in my vocabulary, and it never needed to be. Let them have their warm cider and whisper quiet conversation. I was creating magic, and they had no idea what they had just walked away from.
The next 2 weeks passed in a beautiful blur, the kind where time bends around joy. While my family kept sending their guilt-dusted messages, texts disguised as concern, the Food Network crew set up cables, cameras, and lighting rigs inside my brownstone. The transformation began. Room by room, we created a living storybook. The front hall became the snowfall welcome, complete with flurrying machines that puffed delicate flakes into the air as guests entered. The parlor became a sugar plum forest, bathed in purples, silvers, and twinkling icicle lights. The kitchen, North Pole Bakehouse, gingerbread dough, peppermint marshmallows, the works. Jasmine walked through the front door on day 3 of prep and froze in place, her mouth falling open. "Leela, it's like walking into a dream." "It's not for me," I reminded her. "It's for them, for the kids who have never seen what magic looks like when it's made just for them." On the 5th day, I stood in front of the living room tree with the camera rolling. "This," I said, gesturing to the shimmering glass ornaments, "is our wish tree. Each one represents a holiday wish from a child at Kensington Outreach. Granted." Behind me, a group of children wearing hand-knitted scarves squealed as snow machines flurried over their heads. The smell of cinnamon, citrus, and vanilla filled the air. My family wanted calm. I gave the world a snow globe dream. That evening, I received another text from Alina. "Your mom says you're ignoring her dinner planning group chat? This whole thing is making things awkward. Are you trying to ruin our engagement week?" I chuckled softly. Last year, I'd been accused of doing too much. 7 courses, calligraphy name cards, imported ornaments. This year, I was accused of doing too little. Simply not being there. Funny how no version of me was ever right. But then came the headline. Local baker transforms historic brownstone into holiday haven for children in need. The local news had picked it up. My face was on the homepage of the city paper, smiling in front of the wish tree. My phone rang within 5 minutes. "Leela," my mother's voice crackled through the speaker. "What is this article? Are you doing this to spite us?" I stood at my window, watching volunteers string lights along the gate. Music spilled faintly from inside. "No, Mom. I said calmly. I'm doing this because while you're chasing peace, there are kids in this city who've never known what Christmas feels like. I'm giving them the holiday you used to be proud of me for creating. There was silence. Then smaller, almost a whisper. But what about family? I didn't pause. Exactly, Mom. What about family? Click. An hour later, my father left a voicemail. His voice, usually all bark and gravel, sounded unsure. Princess, your brother says Alina's upset. She thinks this is some kind of spotlight thing. Maybe you could just come to their place. Keep it simple this year. But I wasn't interested in simple anymore. I was interested in impact. I was reviewing lighting cues with Jasmine when the door opened, no knock, no text, and in walked Mason, solo, for once. He stood frozen in the entryway, staring. Garlands of pine and gold wrapped the grand staircase. The fireplace flickered behind a group of kids frosting cookies on antique platters. In the dining room, a long table was already set for 35, real linen, crystal glassware, custom menus with every child's name in gold ink. He blinked, taking it all in. What is all this? He asked, voice low. I stepped beside him, hands clasped. This is what the holidays should feel like. Not just quiet, but whole, joyful, real. His gaze moved to the crew filming in the corner, his brow furrowed. Is that the Food Network? It is. Turns out my intense parties were exactly what they were looking for. Mason's face flushed. So this is about proving something, showing us up. I didn't flinch. Instead, I handed him a cream-colored folder. Inside were photos, handwritten letters, and crayon drawings from the children who'd be attending. A smiley sun, a family of stick figures, a note that read, Dear Santa, I just want dinner with my mom. No, I said. This is about creating the kind of magic I used to give to us before it became too much for you. He flipped through the pages. His mouth set, then softened. You should probably go, I said gently. You've got that quiet dinner to plan. Alina's family's waiting. Mason looked around one last time, then nodded slowly, and left. As the door clicked shut, Jasmine squeezed my arm. He looked floored. He's not the only one who will be surprised, I murmured, flipping to the final checklist in my notebook. Everything was right on time. That night, the phone rang. Again, my mother, for the third time in 2 days. Leela, your father and I were talking. Maybe we were a little hasty. Your house really is perfect for Christmas. Mom, I said gently, everything's already in motion. The Children's Center is counting on this. The crew's here, the shoot's scheduled. There's no going back. There was a pause. I could almost feel her calculating. Not the loss of me, but of the spotlight, of being left out of the most talked about event of the season. But we're still family, she offered meekly. We are. And sometimes family needs to learn that peace doesn't come from silencing someone. It comes from making space for who they really are. Not long after I hung up, a new message popped up. Melissa, Mark wants to know if you need more volunteers tomorrow. Mark, Melissa's husband, my always neutral brother-in-law. Quiet, practical, reliable. I smiled. I'd seen how his eyes lit up when he helped string lights the other day. Yes, evening shift. Thank you. Maybe some traditions were worth saving, just not the ones my family insisted were sacred.
Christmas Eve arrived with a blanket of snow so perfect it looked airbrushed. The city glittered under it like a snow globe just shaken. Streetlights cast golden halos through falling flakes, and my brownstone, my too much home, glowed like a lantern in the dark. Inside, everything was ready. Each window framed a slice of magic, softly glowing candles, snowflake garlands strung like whispers, children's artwork displayed like fine gallery pieces. Music drifted from the old record player, Bing Crosby crooning against the scent of gingerbread and cocoa. At 5 p.m., they started arriving. Children in puffy coats, cheeks pink from the cold, some clutching their mother's hands, others clinging to stuffed animals. Most said nothing at first, just stood inside the door, blinking at the wonder all around them. "Welcome to Holiday Magic," I said, greeting them with a smile and a warm scarf for each. "Tonight, this house belongs to you." And they believed me. Their eyes widened, their smiles stretched. They shed their coats and stepped into joy like it was the first warm bath of their lives. In the den, story time had begun. In the kitchen, cookie making was underway, supervised by Jasmine and 2 culinary students I'd brought in. The cocoa bar was a riot of toppings and flavors. Craft stations overflowed with ribbon, glitter, and endless laughter. Mark, surprisingly handy, had helped me string lights in the garden the night before. As we plugged in the final set, he looked around and said, "Your sister always talked about wanting a quiet holiday. But this is what it's supposed to feel like." At 7 p.m., the Food Network special aired, Holiday Magic with Leela Hart. I didn't watch it. I was too busy helping Sophie, one of the younger girls, make snowflake cookies while she told me about her dream of becoming an artist. Jasmine kept checking social media and whispered updates in my ear between activities. "Leela," she said around 7:40, "your segment is trending nationally. #Holiday Magic is blowing up. You're everywhere." I didn't feel famous. I felt full, rooted, alive. At 8 p.m., the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Alina, mascara smudged, cheeks flushed, standing there like a ghost caught in the glow. "I just watched the special," she said, her voice barely audible. "Leela, I'm so sorry. We were wrong." She stepped inside slowly, her eyes sweeping over the lights, the warmth, the handmade decorations, not store-bought sparkle, but real intentional beauty. "In all these years, we called you intense, but you weren't. You were magical." Behind her, my parents appeared. My mother held a monogrammed handkerchief, dabbing at her eyes. My father stood like a man who'd walked into a memory he forgot he missed. Children passed behind us, laughing, singing, frosting cookies. The whole house pulsed with the kind of joy you can't fake, the kind you build. My mother's voice trembled as she looked around. "The way those children look at you," she whispered, "it's the way you used to look, years ago, when you'd planned Christmas before we made you feel like it was too much." I didn't say anything at first. I just let them feel it, let them see it. The warm nights, the paper snowflakes strung like stars, the children curled up in blankets, clutching their handmade ornaments. Finally, I spoke. "Peace comes in many forms. Sometimes it's quiet, and sometimes it's the wild, wonderful chaos of joy." My father stepped forward and pulled me into a tight, shaking hug. "Princess, we forgot what Christmas really means. Can you forgive us?" Before I could answer, a small voice rang out behind me. "Miss Leela, come quick." It was Tommy, one of the quietest boys in the group. Shy, barely spoke during crafts. He stood under the wish tree, clutching one of the paper ornaments in trembling hands. Inside was a note. "You've been matched with your new family. They're here to meet you tonight." His eyes filled with tears, then he ran, straight into the arms of a couple kneeling nearby. His new parents. The room fell silent. Then a wave of hushed sobs rolled across the house. Even the Food Network crew had stopped filming. One cameraman wiped away a tear behind the lens. Another lowered her equipment and just watched. My mother gripped my hand. Her voice cracked. This is what you do. You make
dreams come true. Across the room, Alina had joined a group of kids decorating sugar cookies. Jasmine was leading them in a silly carol, laughing harder than I'd ever seen him. Mark, ever the stoic, now sat in the den, surrounded by children, begging him to tell stories. He began with one about a snowman that came to life, and they listened like it was gospel. Later that night, as the cocoa was nearly gone and the music turned soft, my mother found me near the staircase. "When we said we wanted peace," she said, her eyes scanning the glowing rooms, "we thought it meant quiet. But this is real peace. Watching dreams come true. Seeing love in action. That's all I ever wanted to create. Every party, every detail. It wasn't about impressing anyone. It was about giving people magic they could hold on to." By 10 p.m., the children were bundled up again, sleepy but glowing. One by one, they said goodbye, their arms full of cookies, ornaments, scarves, and memories, all except for Tommy, who left hand in hand with his new parents, already homebound in heart. The camera crew packed up slowly, still buzzing about how this should become an annual feature. Jasmine hugged me so tightly I nearly cried. And then, just like that, it was over. Almost. As my family gathered their coats, Alina approached me again. "Our quiet dinner tomorrow, it's going to feel kind of empty now. Any chance your, intense sister could host instead?" I laughed and pulled out my notebook. "I already prepped a plan B, just in case." My dad chuckled from the foyer. "Of course you did, Princess. You always think of everything." Christmas Day arrived, and once again, my home was full. But this time, there were no raised eyebrows at the 5-course meal, no jokes about my color-coded timeline, no rolled eyes at the handmade napkin rings. There was only gratitude. There was peace, not born from silence, but finally understanding why I do what I do. As we sat down to eat, my mother raised her glass. "To Leela," she said, her voice full and steady, who reminded us that peace doesn't live in simplicity. It lives in the joy of creating something beautiful for others. Around the table were the people I loved. Some changed, some softened, all together again. And I realized something. Sometimes the best gifts don't come wrapped in ribbons or placed under trees. Sometimes they come wrapped in pain, rejection, and resilience. And when you finally open them, they reveal your own worth. If my story moved you, even a little, tell me what part stayed with you. And if you've ever been told you were too much, just know this. Your passion is not a flaw. Your joy is not too loud. Your magic is not a problem to be solved. Don't shrink. Create boldly, love loudly, and above all, keep building something beautiful.